So good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming out. This is a terrific turnout, and I know many of you have been here many times before. We also have some new recruits from our domestic violence training, so this will be maybe a first time for some of you. And this is a great way to have you all together to kick off Domestic Violence Awareness Month and to get everyone thinking about domestic violence in our midst. And no one better to get things started tonight than His Honor, who's been with us from the beginning of his tenure and been very supportive, Mayor Jon Mitchell.
All right. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. You know, we do this ceremony every year, and you know, there's a constancy that is I think is really inspiring on the part of the Women's Center, and Pamela, of course, is just such an unwavering champion for the rights of domestic violence victims, along with the chief, who's, you know, a former board member, as well as somebody who, you know, puts time and tremendous time and energy and focus in the law enforcement end of the effort, as well as DA Tom Quinn. If Tom can't be here tonight, it's for a good reason. That's because he has always been here for victims, and so, you know, so we're here every year, and it's always, you know, reaffirming to see people. But I've always felt there's a little bit ambivalent about the event, and it's for this reason. I mean, we continue to talk about it and remind people and go through the exercise of sensitizing folks, especially men, about the risks of, not the risk, but the problem of domestic violence in our society.
Oh, well.
We usually don't have that much wind at these events. That's what's different this year.
I think your proclamation.
But that's all right. So I was unprepared for that part of it. There goes my proclamation. But, you know, we're obviously, the goal is to eliminate the problem, and yet we're moved here every year to come because we know that it hasn't been eliminated. And you know, as we think about, you know, current events, we're reminded that we've got a long way to go before we change the way culturally that men here in America and other places behave toward women. And I know that we're not talking about just, you know, men on women domestic violence. That is, of course, the most frequent scenario, but we continue to talk about it. And I just, you know, I just want to say, for those of you who've been here year in and year out, we have to continue to talk about it, even though we look around and say, you know what, when are we going to be done with this? We're going to be done with this when we all acknowledge that we can't stop. I mean, it almost sounds paradoxical, but we know that we have to continue to be vigilant, to continue to raise the issue, to continue to say there's certain behaviors toward people we love that are completely unacceptable. We have to continue to make that the norm, and make it the norm despite what are sometimes feels like crosswinds against that kind of sensibility. And so I want to thank all of you. Thank all of you, not just for showing up tonight. Thank all of you for sharing your stories, but also for the example that you set, and for being evangelists in a way, for getting the word out that you know, there's a better way for all of us to be, for all of us to interact with one another, and that you know, men in particular, I feel, as the father of 3 daughters, especially so, that there's a way that we have to convey to our fellow guys that you know, some things just aren't right, and being a tough guy doesn't feeling like you're a tough guy doesn't give you license to behave in ways that might hurt others. You can be a good man, and good men are the ones who understand that. So anyway, I say all this as a way of thanks and a way of saying let's keep it up. We have to continue to send our message not only by our words but our deeds, and reaffirm that every year. And that's why I'm pleased to be here. And I'll spare the proclamation because, as you know, it's kind of the same every year.
Yes.
So but my words tonight are not the same, and I really wanted to just convey with from the heart where I'm coming from. So here's the proclamation for this year, which
Before it flies away again.
Before it flies away again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We always have to do the inevitable microphone adjustment after the mayor speaks. Thank you so much, Mayor. And yes, the proclamation does always officially declare this Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the city of New Bedford, and it is a national movement. So this is something that is going on in every city and town, we hope, across the nation, remembering the victims of domestic violence. And when Mayor Mitchell was speaking, he mentioned our wonderful chief of police, and he said something about a former board member. Not so fast.
He's double dipping.
He is our board member. And we have a rule on our board that you can't actually go off the board until you find your exact replacement. So until another chief of police comes along to take his spot, I'm afraid he's stuck with us. And we are so lucky to have him. This is someone who has had a true commitment to victims of domestic violence. Starting off, when I first came to the Women's Center, he was a lieutenant who was on our Domestic Violence Month committee, actually, and had worked with the DV unit and with the Women's Center, and has always had an extremely strong commitment to finding the best services for victims and making sure that they get justice as well. So without further ado, our wonderful Chief, Joseph Cadera. He also gives the best hugs.
Thank you, Pam. I have to adjust the microphone as well, all the time. Thank you, Pam, and thank you, Mayor Mitchell, for always supporting our police department and our efforts. The DA, who's not here today, has always been extremely supportive of this cause. But I want to thank my fellow officers that some are here hanging around, helping us out, keeping the streets safe, for the work that they do every day in the realm of domestic violence. It's one of the most dangerous calls for service that police officers attend to, and they do a fabulous job, and I'm really appreciative for the work that they do. But I just want to take a quick moment to really talk about why we're here, and that's the victims of domestic violence. It's a tale as old as time, and it's been around as long as man's been walking this earth. And it's only been the last 30 or 40 years that we started to really make ground, gain ground in this horrible issue. And yet we stand here today, and as I've been here at least for the last 20 years coming to this event. And it's sad. It's sad because there are fellow human beings that are suffering in their home. In speaking with many victims in my time and looking in their eyes and seeing their pain and suffering, and kids, especially the kids, it's almost like living with a terrorist. Going home every day, being afraid and fear, driving while you stay. The stigma still exists with domestic violence, as if it's the victim's fault that they're being abused or violated or prevented from growing personally, professionally, getting education, socially. And many times it results in physical abuse that we tend to. And the old saying goes about sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. But that can't be furthest from the truth. Those physical wounds do heal, but those emotional and psychological wounds don't seem to go away as fast or ever in many cases. So for that reason, that is why we're standing here today. And I speak to you, ask you, as Pam is, and what this day is all about, for us to reach out to anyone and everyone that you know when you go home today. Use your phone, use your social media, Facebook, text, and tell everybody to be aware that this is Domestic Violence Month. Everyone knows someone that's going through a tough time, that is struggling. We need to reach out to them, offer them the support that they need. We need to break the barriers of the stigma, because it is tough to get out of these environments. The statistic, I think it takes about 7 times for a woman to finally make the decision to break away from that horrible relationship. They need our support. What our world needs, and these folks need, is support, love, understanding, and patience, because it has to be on their time. An abuser takes power and control from the victim, and as friends and family members, we too want to give them back their power and control and not take it away as the abuser does. So I ask you to be patient, tolerant, reach out, a lot of support, a lot of love, and we can overcome this. And slowly, those numbers get smaller and smaller and smaller, and we can free the chains of domestic violence, especially from the little ones who have no choice, who are seeing this every single day, up at night, having to go to school the next day and try to study and worry about mom. And men too today. A lot more men are coming out, especially where we're much more accepting as a society of same-sex relationships, so more men are coming out. And it's easily camouflaged when a man goes to the emergency room and he's got a black eye, and he can pawn it off as they got into a bar fight, when really it's their lover. So we really have to be more vigilant about that. So I thank you for being here today. I beseech you and I ask you, please reach out to everyone you know, use your social media, use your phone, and make everyone aware of this incredible, important day today and the next month for us to really reach out to people and be vigilant and try to save some lives. Thank you so much.
Well, after that, I don't know what more I can say. We do know this year that there were 13 domestic violence homicides, 13 victims, and 3 perpetrators who also either committed suicide or were killed as a result of their perpetrating domestic violence. So 16 people died as a result of domestic violence this year. And those are the ones that we know because they're in the papers. We know that someone has died because of domestic violence. What we don't know are all the ones that are living with this violence in their home every day. And I really do like the chief's likening it to living with a terrorist. Literally, you don't know what you're going to see when you come in the door that night, or when he comes in the door, or she comes in the door, because it is perpetrated upon men as well. So it's the place that you're supposed to find sanctuary, where you're supposed to feel safe, where you're supposed to have warmth and comfort, and that's where the violence is. Just think about that. Think about victims living with the violence. And the tree will be lit tonight by the mayor. This tree is not just to commemorate the victims who've died, but also so that when we go by it, we think about all those who are still living in domestic violence. Think of the women, the men, and particularly the children. It is particularly horrifying for children to grow up in an environment that is insecure and where they never know what's going to happen with the adults around them. We have a wonderful child trauma center at the Women's Center, and we reach out to those children, the children that have been abused, the children that are living in domestic violence, or have been victims of sexual assault. And as the chief said so eloquently, it is a forever thing when you've been a victim of violence in that way. But we help victims to find the path to healing. So it is your responsibility. What you can do is, as the chief said, get on social media, tell people about tonight, and most importantly, please come to our vigil on October 23rd. We will meet right here at 6 o'clock again. Many of you know we then march in silence to the Unitarian Church. We begin the service at the Unitarian Church to think about the victims that have died that year, and also the victims in our area who have died over the years as a result of domestic violence. It's a very moving ceremony. Everyone who takes part in it leaves changed. But you can change lives. You can save lives, literally, by being aware of the people around you, being aware of who may be harming them or that they may be at risk, and making sure that they find their way to safety, to the Women's Center, to help, to healing. That's what we do for victims, is we help them find the path to healing in their own way. We let them guide us in how we can help them. And it's confidential, it's completely confidential when you come to us for our services. We fight for that confidentiality. Massachusetts protects that for us with laws so that we can serve victims and they can come to us in freedom and know that They're not going to get an insurance bill. It's not going to be on an insurance statement anywhere. It is free and it's confidential. And so we hope that you reach out to people that you think may be at risk and just simply spread the word. I mean, that's what you can do. These are voiceless, silenced victims. This violence thrives in silence. I've said it before. Silence is not golden in this regard. Silence has never been golden as far as I'm concerned. I don't know where that old saw came from. Because silence is what victims are held in, and it is what perpetrators depend upon, that they can silence people about them being hurt, themselves being hurt. So we have to speak for them. We have to be the voices. We have to speak out for victims. There is a sense of change in the air today. We have the Me Too, the hashtag Me Too movement for sexual assault victims. And now there's a new hashtag, and that is hashtag Survivors Speak, that the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence has put forward as a way for victims specifically of domestic violence to come forward. Because as Chief Cadero said, there is still a stigma, but this is a way that they can come forward and tell their story. And so we encourage you to foster hashtag Survivors Speak as a way for victims to tell their stories and to come forward. And of course, there's always our hotline, 999-6636, and area code 508. We know that about 1,800 calls went out to domestic violence hotlines in Massachusetts last year. So the victims are out there, and they are calling, and we hope that they will hear us. The most important thing about tonight is the media attention that we may get, and that you all use, today it's not just the media that can get the word out. You too, everyone who has a cell phone can get the word out. You can all Twitter, go on Twitter, you can tweet, you can use Instagram, you can chat, you can talk about this, and please spread the word about October 23rd, which will be our domestic violence vigil. We hope people will come here to march with us. We hope they'll come to the Unitarian Church for the service to commemorate victims and to remember how many people are living in the violence every single day. And the most important thing you can do this month is wear purple, or at least a purple ribbon. And when people ask why you're wearing purple or why you have a purple ribbon, talk to them about domestic violence. We have lots of information for you. You can just contact the Women's Center through our website, and we will get you all the information you need to talk to victims, to talk to your friends and family about domestic violence. We have to work together to break the silence. We are the only thing standing between victims and actually great harm. So you can save lives. Please help us to help the victims. Thank you all again for coming out, and we will see you all on October 23rd, I hope.
All right, shall we do this?
Yes.
All right.
We're going to, we hope, light the tree.
Knock on wood.
Yes.
And before we do, I just want to acknowledge the support of City Councilor Hugh Dunn, who's up here with us tonight, and the representatives from the District Attorney's Office. All right, let there be purple light.
I think they're white lights now. The
They're
purple
white.
didn't show
Okay.
that now. Let there be light.
There we go.
Yeah, there
all
we
right.
go.
All right, looks good. Thank you for coming out, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.